words that you can use to describe this SKT squad. But, you know, where the rest of the tournament has been kind of mired by action, right? Fights, skirmishes, deaths, kills everywhere around the map. This one really slowed down from both teams, and we saw a very methodical game, which feels like it fits right into SKT's wheelhouse, exactly how they'd want a game to go.
And the draft, I think, is the big story here, because they really played to their draft, but it was a really interesting draft from SKT. The moment you saw the Fiora lock-in, the first actual Fiora of the season for Huni as a blind pick, that's a bold thing, as a very simple, if you take that away, but it's not so bold when you consider Rumble, Ken, and Galio, Gragas, Kled, Shen, all banned before that blind pick comes in. You can look over the match histories of MMD. He's never played a champion that actually does well against Fiora in his career, his long career, that fits in this spot. So he has to go a tank matchup. He ends up going W max Nautilus. So no wave clear, basically the white flag of, well, I guess I'm not going to die. And the inevitability of 30 minutes onwards comes through with the Fiora.
Say not going to die until Fiora's 3 items, and then you have no choice.
Yeah, but 100%, just to echo this is going to continue to be the giant target painted on Flash Wolves, the fact that MMD has such a limited effective champion pool, and unless he can pull out those fighter top laners,
oh, he can't.
They're not going to go anywhere in this tournament then.
But we know he can't, right? He can play the Kled maybe, the Rumble sure, but the Cannon is just not a champion we expect.
What about the Gragas?
It's definitely a concern for Flash Wolves, but I do want to touch on SKT a little bit because we almost gloss over their dominance sometimes and how quickly they are able to identify where they can attack to just get an absolute victory, because you mentioned the word inevitability, and that's exactly what this game felt like. As soon as they locked in that Fiora and you saw, oh man, they have Fizz and Fiora, so in both solo lane matchups they can always get that advantage. And then unlike other teams, they did it without dying, right? Because we've seen so many teams try 1-3-1 over and over again. We've seen it at this tournament. No one is even close to as clean as SKT when this happens. And you saw the instant Huni got that Bloodthirster and had the items, they basically won the game. You saw the item completed, you could start your timer 3 minutes and the game's going to be over.
Yep.
Again, you want to talk about cleanliness, just look at their record now in the tournament, right? Moving to 5-0, clean sweep in the first round robin. The rest of the team sitting at 2-3, well behind them moving into the second set of games.
I mean, the rest of the teams, you know, you watch this game, you consider that actually on the season in 2017, first game of Kog'Maw from Bang, first game of Braum from Wolf, and first game of Fiora from Fiora from Huni. So it's already new stuff, and they've shown so many different comps. We talked about meta at the start of the broadcast, things like protect the Kog'Maw, protect the Twitch. We know that SKT can do that. Set up for split pushes now 2 games in a row. Huni has run through the game. There's 16 games. The maximum possible, I think, for SKT. I think they can go 16-0 this tournament because they can play every style. They have carries in every role. And I think now the betting market is, does SKT drop a game in the tournament? Not a match, a game.
They do look up to the task. So, Jat, you talked about a clean early game, getting through it without early deaths, and kind of that inevitability of the Fiora in the side lanes. Let's go ahead and take a look at the replay. That 1v1 from Huni under the inhib turret against MMD.
Yeah, and when he has this much lifesteal, he can stack up his Bloodthirster shield to effectively ignore the turret, and he's almost lifestealing enough off of Nautilus to make the turret not necessarily matter. He obviously ults, he gets 40% true damage of max health and pretty easily takes him down under the turret.
Yeah, it's so clean. That was with the Bloodthirster, of course. Items were down.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily about the mechanics of that play. It's about the fact that he just had reached that point in the game where there was very little that MMD could do. I've actually seen Huni play the opposite side of that matchup and not fall nearly as far behind it, is able to itemize more armor and get a Thornmill and prevent that from happening. But the way they played it set that up.
And let's remember, at the very beginning of the game, Karsa makes a visit top lane, level 2, to get the flash out of Huni. Even makes a couple return ganks, Huni catching, you know, the move into the brush there to avoid the death itself at level 5. So Flash was looking to attack those soul lanes, but as you mentioned, Jat, just cleanliness from SKT in terms of avoiding those ganks, really knowing where the pressure is going to come.
Yeah, it's just that idea that I feel like a lot of people will watch this game and there's that huge stall into the mid game and they're like, you know, this is boring. What's happening? SKT, I thought they were supposed
Flash
to be super
looks
dominant.
like they were in the game by the kill score.
Exactly, but it's just about controlling tempo and that tempered aggression. You know that SKT are just sitting buying the time. Jat, you said, you know, looking for that Bloodthirster, looking for the Black Cleaver. As soon as all of these items came online, suddenly SKT are like, okay, we're ready to go. Pack it up, go towards Baron.
They'll play any style. Flash Wolves is slower. They'll play slow and spread them out. Gigabyte Marines is fast. They'll play faster and not lose any turrets. I mean, bold prediction, the team that has dominated every team at the tournament already probably won't drop a game to any team at the tournament from here on out. And I think that's likely with the way they're playing unless someone can crack them in some way.
It's an interesting thing, though, because even here, when, again, we look at this, we go, okay, Syndra's great laning power there. Nautilus, great gank assist, along with Graves damage in the top lane. There should have been maybe more opportunities to punish these scaling laners, the 1-3-1 splitters from SKT, and yet it doesn't happen. It still felt like they dictated the pace for the entirety of the game, not the Flash Wolves.
But the scary thing for me, like 100% agree, is that we've seen so many different styles. You know, Papa Smith is talking about all their different compositions, but you look at the Gigabyte Marines, even when it devolves into like straight chaos, SKT still look phenomenal there because they're mechanically just superior players. You then look at a game like this, completely different tempo, and it's the same exact thing. And I don't know if SKT have ever been, like they've always been the best team, but if they've ever been this complete package across the entire board.
Well, that's what you get when you bring in Peanut and Huni to fill out your roster and make it a full 5-man threat comp. Well, SKT looked to be unstoppable. Up next, we had the last...